Hi guys, how we doing? It's Wednesday. It is Wednesday, 1 p.m. Well, it's actually 1:01 here Eastern time. So, how we doing, guys? How is everybody out there? See two little heads popping in. There's Miss Stacia. Hi, Stacia. Stacia, how? Oh, there's Ginger. Trouble's here. Trouble's here. Guys, how's the sound? Is the sound okay? Let me know, because if it's not, I can do the wiggle wiggle and adjust it a little bit. I still didn't get any canned air, so I just don't know. I blew in it really hard. Just so everybody knows what I'm talking about. The plug for my microphone, I need to get some canned air and blow in there, because it seems like the connections need a little extra love. Hi, Anita. Hi, Holly. Hello again. Well, I'm glad you told me. Hold on, everybody. Oh, Stacia says I'm perfect. How is it now? Thumbs up if we're doing okay with the volume, guys. Hi, Eve. How are ya? Hi. Janice, hi. So, thumbs up. We're good to go. Okay. Just making sure. I don't want to get like too far into it and everybody be like, we can't hear you. So, all right. So it is Wednesday, which means that it is time for our design on the fly project of the week. And our design on the fly projects usually feature our weekly deals, and it is no different this week. We will be featuring the weekly deals for our project. So let me give you a little rundown as to what the weekly deals are. So our first weekly deal is a free tassel set with a $29 cart, and the coupon code for that is JJB Tassel. Guys, remember, when you are putting in your coupon codes, when you go to check out, don't put any spaces in between there. Okay. The next one is buy 3, get 1 free on bundles, and the code for that is bundle. I feel a sneeze coming on. Really trying to hope it goes away. And then last but not least is 10% off on all cord, and the code for that is all cord, no spaces. So we're going to use a little bit of this for our project today. So I'm going to use a strand that is from the new bead bundle, or the Bead Strand bundle that just recently, was it last week? It may have been week before last. Let me look. It's called Licorice All Sorts 5 Strand Bundle. So the 5 Strand Bundle, we've already used one of the strands from it. I'm going to use another strand from that bundle today, and I want to show it to you. Now, remember, with the bundles, particularly these strand bundles, there's no guarantee that you're going to get the exact same strands that I have, right? Everybody's are going to be a little bit different, but these are premium strands, so they are really good. Like, they're really pretty and fancy, and they've got lots of good stuff on them. So this is the one that I'm going to use today. But I've set this project up so that you can do this with any of the strands. So just because you don't have the exact same strand that I got doesn't mean that you're not going to find a comparable strand in your bundle that you can use. Okay, so we're going to use a strand from the bundle, and we're also going to use some seed beads. And I'm using, let's see here. So Classic Coal is the bundle, and unfortunately I've already taken it out of the package because I've used a lot of these beads already. But it has like this hematite color. There's some black and then a brown, which we used for some other things. I think we're going to use the black. I'm hoping that we're going to have enough of the black to use. So we're going to use that. And then we're also going to use some tassels. So under the tassels, there's a tassel assortment that is gray, neutral tassels. I've just pulled some tassels out of that, and we're only going to use one of them, but I pulled both of them out. I don't know why. I just grabbed both of them. And then last but not least, we're going to use some cord. I'm going to be using some of the black faux suede lace. This is Beadalon cord, and definitely part of the 10% off. So, excuse me.
we're going to use 2 pieces of this for the length portion of our necklace. If you don't want to use the suede lace, there are all kinds of other cords on the Jessie James Beads website that is going to be perfect for this, or you could use chain reaction as well as any of the other chains, or you could just bead it up if you wanted to. All right, so something else to make note of. I don't think that Kelly is here yet, but guys, when the little Jessie James Beads logo pops up, that is Miss Kelly today. Sarah is in a meeting, so Kelly is going to be joining us, dropping links. I don't know if she's here yet or not, but if she is here, hi Kelly, I love you. I'm glad that you're here. Drop the links. Otherwise, we'll see her when we get here. Jane says, can you see my comment? Yes, ma'am, I can see your comment. Did I miss an earlier comment, though? That is the question. Did I miss one earlier? Let me go back here. Oh gosh. Cindy's evacuated from the hurricane. Please stay safe. Glammy Strand, I agree. I'm just rolling back on the comments, guys, before we get started here. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good night. Hi, Pam. Hi, Joy. Just checking in, making sure everybody's here and accounted for. If you're not here, then you'll end up in detention. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. All right, guys. So shall we get down to it? This, like I said, this is a design on the fly. Sorry, you're kind of shaking a little bit. It's a design on the fly. So I haven't actually executed it, but I haven't like drawn it. That's a little drawing to refer to, but I have not actually put this together. So anything could happen, right? Let's just see how that goes. All right, so I am going to turn the camera around. You guys know that a lot of times when I make the adjustment, it messes up the volume. So yell at me if the volume is too low, okay? Let's do this.
All right. So let me know about that volume because I have a feeling. Hold on.
All right, I'm giving it a little wiggle, so hopefully the little wiggle will help. Okay, excuse me. So let me just show you the little strand that we're going to use for our project. Now, like I said, you might not get this exact strand in your bundle. Too low. Still too low? Too low. All right, hold on. Okay, are we better now? I'll give it a second because I know there's a little bit of delay. Okay, excuse me. So this is the strand that we are going to use in our project. Now, you may or may not get this one in your bundle, but I promise that you're going to be able to, no volume again, like all of a sudden. That's not good. Volume is good now. Okay, great. Okay, so like I was saying, we're going to use this strand, and if for some reason you don't have this strand, the way that this project is going to work, you are going to be able to do this with any of the strands that you've got. Okay, you may have to rework a little bit of it, but I think for the most part that you'll be able to kind of recreate this with one of your strands from your bundle. Okay. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to grab a little bit of 22 gauge wire. Let me explain what we're going to do. Okay. So I want to restring this, and I'm going to do that. I feel like the lights are really low tonight or today. I want to restring this, but I want to keep it pretty much in the same order that it already is, but I want to take out this center bead and make it a drop instead. And we're going to use some seed beads here in the middle to hang our drop from. Does that make sense? So I think probably the best way to execute this is we are going to very carefully cut our strand apart. Now remember, those of you who are new, this is a design on the fly. That's why I don't really have a clear and concise plan, so to speak. So just keep that in mind, okay? So I'm gonna take my beads off of the bead string wire, trying to keep that pattern. I don't want to mix them up too much. Okay, There, I very carefully removed the bead stringing wire. So we're going to keep this pattern. And what I want to do is, like I said, I want to take this guy and turn it into a drop or a pendant. Not necessarily like anything super fancy. We're just going to do a little wire wrapping. But then we're going to go to restring all this, in this section here in the center, I'm going to use some seed beads for. And I'm also going to do some seed bead loops on the ends. Okay. So we're going to need a little bit of bead stringing wire, a little bit of our German style wire, and we should be good to go with that. So I'm going to cut a piece of my 22 gauge wire here, and this is German style wire. You can use whichever one, you know, you want to use. If you prefer the 20, that's totally fine. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to create a knotted head pin. Okay, so I cut way too much wire, but that's all right. I'm going to take the very tail end of my wire and the very tip of my round nose pliers. Okay, I'm going to grab the wire right at the tip of the pliers, right at the tip of the wire. I'm going to roll that around the pliers one time all the way around. Okay, and now I'm going to roll a second time directly underneath the first. Okay, and then you want to stop where you see that flush cut of wire. That's how you know that you have gone around 2 times completely. Okay, now before I take this off of the tool, I'm going to bend the wire out this direction. Okay, and that's actually going to be going underneath the 2 coils. Okay, I'm going to take the tail end of the wire, stick it through that loop, so we make this funny little lasso shape. Okay, now excuse me, I'm going to come in with my nylon jaw pliers. I'm grabbing that wire and I'm grabbing it so that the 2 coils that I just made are right up against the nylon jaw. Where are my bent chain nose pliers? Okay, I'm going to grab a hold of that and I'm going to pull, and when I pull, you want to pull tight. That's going to create a little knotted rosette shape. Okay, now we're just going to drop, you know what? I just remembered we're going to hang a tassel from this. I'm like, why am I doing a knot here? I need a loop here, but that's okay, because for those of you who haven't ever seen me do the knotted head pin, now you get to see it. I am going to show it to you, so I'll go ahead and drop the bead on, but then I'm going to take it off. I don't know what I was thinking. Forgot about our beautiful little tassel. So if you were going to use the knotted head pin and you didn't want to hang anything from it, then you've got a perfect little head pin to drop your bead onto, right? Okay, now my apologies. Forgot about our tassel. I can't believe I forgot. So now instead of doing a knotted head pin, we're actually going to do a wrapped loop on the bottom and then a wrapped loop on the top, okay? Because we've got to have a loop so that we can attach our tassel. So I'm just going to come down on the wire. Okay, about 1.5 inches. I'm going to bend the wire. Now I'm going to come in with my round nose pliers, grabbing the wire. This is running between the barrel of the pliers. I'm going to take that wire, the short end, up and over the top barrel of the pliers. Okay, now I got to roll the pliers out of the way so I can take the wire all the way over to the other side. That's going to create our loop. I'm going to take that short end and wire wrap about 3 times underneath our loop. All right, now it makes a little more sense. All right, I'm just going to come in and trim off the tail. Okay, now I'm going to drop my bead down onto that loop. So now we've got a loop here at the bottom so that we can hang our tassel from it. Okay, and our tassel has a jump ring that is we want that jump ring to face us. So the loop on the bottom of our bead, we want that loop to face side to side just so that everything is going to hang correctly. Okay, but now the top loop, we want it to face us because it's going to be kind of like a bail. So you just want to be sure that all your loops and your jump rings and everything are facing the same way, or facing the right way, not the same way. Okay, so I'm going to grab the wire right where it is exiting the bead. Okay, I'm going to give it a bend. Now you can see this loop's going to face us, whereas this one is already facing the opposite direction. Like we're seeing the side of it. That's exactly what we want. All right, now I'm going to create a loop on the top of this, but I'm going to come back here to the back of my round nose pliers because I want a pretty big loop for this, which I normally make my wrapped loops pretty small and stay towards this end, but we need to be back here towards the back. So going up and over the top barrel of the pliers. Oh no, look, I got caught on the edge of the tool. Let's straighten that back out, try again. That's the good thing about having your nylon pliers on hand, because you can always work out. I got hung up on the square part of the tool here, and it made a little bend. All right, up and over the top barrel of the pliers, roll the pliers out of the way. Okay, now we're going to wire wrap. Okay, and I'm actually going to double this up, so I'm just going to take the tail, go back over those loops that are the wraps that I just made. And you can see that makes a little bit bigger. If you go back to the back of your round nose pliers, you're going to get a larger loop. So I've got a large loop on the top and just a regular small loop down here on the bottom. And I actually, well, that's okay. We'll fix it in a minute, because I just realized something that I did that wasn't right. We'll fix it in just a second. Okay, so I always make everything look so easy. Oh, Karen, I do not. And I got to tell you, I'm off today because that whole like doing the knotted head pin threw me off. And then I gave you guys this whole long speech about making sure that your loops are facing different directions. And honestly, both of these loops have to be facing this direction, because I forgot we're not going to attach a jump ring here. We're going to thread this through. So I'm telling you, I'm a little off today. A little off. Don't know why. Middle of the week got me throwing me off a little bit. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to take some of our bead stringing wire, and I normally like attach our bead stringing wire to some sort of like a quick link or a large jump ring or something like that. But I want to just make our own little ring or loop out of some of the seed beads that we have. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to dump my seed beads into this little bowl and cross my fingers that I have enough. I do have this little guy I can take apart if we need to. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm going to thread on one of my crimp beads or a crimp tube. I'm using a crimp tube today, but if you've got beads, that's totally fine. It's just a personal preference. I'm going to thread one of those on, okay? And we want to make a loop of our seed beads before we thread our bead string and wire back through our crimp bead. So I'm just going to kind of take that crimp tube and hold it back here in my hand, and we're just going to thread on some beads. Wanda says Sarah buys wire in bulk. Yeah, I know. I'm bad about you know, using way too much. So don't ever go with exactly what I'm doing as far as, you know, my cutting, unless I give you an exact measurement, because I'm really bad about that. All right, so I'm just going to thread on some seed beads here, and I want enough seed beads to make a loop very similar to the one that's actually laying in my little bowl here. And these are, I know I mentioned this before, but it's definitely worth mentioning again. So these seed beads are from the little Toho seed bead bundle on the Jesse James Beads website, from the one that is called Classic Coal, and it has this perfect black that goes with everything. There's like a hematite color and a really great kind of chocolate brown. So really good kind of neutrals in the seed bead sense. I don't necessarily mean like neutral colors, but you know, they're colors that are going to work with a lot of different designs. And particularly for the kind of design that we're doing today, where the seed beads are just kind of like an added element, but not necessarily like a, you know, a bead weaving element, if you will. All right, so I'm just threading on several. It's gonna take a few to get a loop the size that I want it to be. So I'm just gonna kind of thread on and then just kind of roll my wire into a circle to see if it's going to be a big enough loop. And again, because it's designed on the fly, I don't have exact measurements. I don't have an exact number of seed beads, but these little size 11s, I know that it's probably going to take upwards of 20 to create the size loop that I want. So we're getting close. That's a pretty good loop, but I think we need just a little bit more. We need it to be just a little bit bigger. So I'm going to add maybe 10 more seed beads. Threading the seed beads, that's when everybody gets really quiet. And then I feel like I need to like fill up the space with words. I know. Silly, silly. All right, so yeah, I like that loop. That's a pretty good size loop. So now what I want to do is drop that crimp down that I was kind of holding back in my hand. Drop that down. Now I'm going to take the tail end of my wire and I'm going to stick it going back through. So I'm going like around to make a loop here. So my bead stringing wire is going back the direction, just like you would if you were going to crimp on a wire guardian or a jump ring. Let's see here. Willow says, where do you buy your wire? Okay, well, let me be completely honest with all of you about the wire. So I don't buy my wire. I am a Beadalon designer. And so Beadalon supplies me with all of the wire that I need for my projects. And Beadalon also has a really good relationship with Jesse James Beads. So I continue to use Beadalon wire in my Jesse James Beads projects here with you guys. And so I don't really buy wire, which is why I can be a little, you know, sometimes my measurements are a little out of whack, and it's not because I take it for granted. I do save all of my scraps. You guys don't think that I just like trash a bunch of wire, because I absolutely don't, but it's not something that I have to purchase on a regular basis. So just kind of one of the perks of working for Beadalon. Okay, so now I need to crimp this, and I'm going to crimp this just like I would any other crimping circumstance. Okay, so in other words, don't take, just because this is not where we've attached a clasp, don't decide that you can't crimp on crimp regularly. You don't want to ever just smash your crimp flat with a pair of pliers, okay, whether it's this kind of situation or not. So we still want to follow the same rules. We want to take that crimp bead or crimp tube and place that in the back notch of our crimper tool. That's the notch that looks like a little shape of macaroni when you have the tool closed. You want to make sure that your bead stringing wire is separated inside that crimp bead or crimp tube. You don't want the two wires crisscrossing each other, okay? You want to make sure that they are separated, one on either side. And then when you squeeze the crimp tool, what you're going to do is that little notch that makes that shape of macaroni, that is going to take that crimp tube and kind of fold it in half, which just further separates your two pieces of your bead stringing wire inside there. So the bead stringing wires are no longer touching, okay? Now we want to take that same crimp, and you can actually see the bend in the wire where the two wires are separated. Now we want to take that crimp and put it into the front notch of the crimper tool, going side to side. So instead of laying it in there flat like we had done before, now we're going to lay it side to side so that when we squeeze, we can tidy up. And it's really just making that crimp a little bit more compact, okay? Now, I'm going to trim off this little excess wire because we don't need that. Okay, now we're going to start stringing on our necklace, but we're only stringing on up to the middle point. Then we're going to add some seed beads. So we're going to keep the same pattern that we have laying out here, which is the pattern that was the strand. Okay. Oh no, my bead's getting away from me. So I'm just going to thread on half of the necklace. Okay. Gosh, that's a pretty bead. The bohos on this gray strand are so pretty too. Look at that. I love that. And I love that AB crystal that's on there. It just gives it kind of like an extra flash of sparkle. So pretty. Okay, so I've made it pretty much to the halfway mark of our necklace, or our strand rather, which is actually going to be our necklace. These two little spacers, I'm actually going to get rid of those. I'm not going to keep those. I'm not getting rid of them as in trashing them. I'm just moving them to the side. I'm not going to include them in our design. Okay. So now we're at the middle, which is where we are going to hang our bead and our little tassel. But before I do that, I want to thread on just a small little section of the seed beads. And that is going to be what our loop here on our bead is going to hang on. Okay, so I'm going to thread on, let's see, maybe 6 or 7 seed beads. I don't want it to be a huge seed bead section, but you can change it up. If you want it to be a really large section of seed beads, you can totally do that. I just want a little center area, whoops, where I can hang my focal from it. So let's see, that is 6 seed beads. Let's just make it 7 just so that it's, all right, I'm going to drop those down. Okay, so we have this little section here that's going to separate the right side and the left side of our necklace. And before I thread the rest of my beads, I want to thread on the larger loop of our pendant. Okay, so it's going to hang right in that little seed bead section. Okay, and now I'm just going to thread on the rest of the beads. And then we're going to create another seed bead loop on the other end. Okay, so a lot of just stringing for today, which, guys, I've always said it, stringing is good for the soul. It's like if you ever get creative block and you don't know what to make, just string some beautiful beads together and something will come to you. Okay. So that's our last bead there. Drop those down. All right, so this is what the center of our necklace is going to look like. Now I can come back over here and count these seed beads so that my 2 loops on either end are going to be exactly the same. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. I should have just kept it at 30. All right, so we're going to do 31 seed beads, but first we're going to thread on another one of our crimp beads or our crimp tubes. Okay, I want to be sure that you do that first before you thread on your seed beads. Okay, so just drop that down. And then we're going to thread on. Oh, don't lose your creativity. I'm telling you, just string some beautiful beads. Take your favorite Jessie James bead strands and just restring them, right? Put them on a piece of bead stringing wire. Get some other beads from your stash and just do some simple stringing. It's really helpful to kind of get those creative juices flowing, to look at strands and patterns that are already created. You don't have to do the hard part, right? You just restring it and that usually gets your juices going again. All right, so there's 5, 6, all right, there's 10. But to be completely honest with you, everybody has those moments, you know, and sometimes they last a couple of days. Sometimes, you know, sometimes they last a long time, a week, a month. I mean, it happens to absolutely everybody. I have been there, and it's hard because 3, hold on, 4, 5. I have to be creative every day. And so it's really, sometimes the pressure of that gives me insane creative block, which really just creates an even bigger problem for me, right? but everybody goes through it is kind of the point that I'm making. I'm sorry, I'm trying to count seed beads and carry on a conversation at the same time. I've got 10 more beads to go. Gwen says hers has been over a month. I feel ya. It happens to all of us, you know, and a lot of times just doing, if the stringing trick doesn't work, you can always try something different, like something completely out of the ordinary for yourself. Like a lot of times if my daughters get creative block, they'll grab those adult coloring books, and just doing some of those adult coloring books, like, you know, I mean, it helps. It helps because you don't have to do a whole lot of thinking, but you're still kind of, you know, designing in the sense of like you're picking out what colors you want to use for your pictures, but it's in such a, you know, a non-stressful kind of therapeutic childhood memory kind of way, I guess you would say. All right, so I have all my seed beads. I'm going to take my bead string wire. I'm going back through my seed bead the opposite direction so I can, when I pull everything down, I've got another little loop here on the end of my necklace. And again, I want to be sure. Donna says she loves those adult coloring books. I do too. I do too. I have a whole stack of them. They're so fun. Okay, so you want to pull all this down, and we want to follow our same crimping technique as before. Okay, so we want to use that back notch. You can see it's the one that looks like the shape of macaroni, and place that crimp bead or crimp tube in that back notch. Pull everything down, give it a squeeze, okay, and then place it in the front notch and give it another squeeze. Okay, now you come in with your cutter tool and trim off. Now, the center part of our necklace is pretty much done. The only thing we need to do is add our tassel to this. And so our tassel has a little jump ring on it. Now, you don't have to open this jump ring. If you don't want to, you can use another small jump ring to secure your tassel to your necklace. I'm going to just very carefully open this one up, which I actually already opened. Thread it on to the bottom wrapped loop of our bead drop, and we have the center of our necklace, right? So this is super easy. I just kind of took a strand, I left it in the same, you know, the same pattern and everything. The only thing I did was remove the center bead and use it as a drop instead of leaving it in the center of the strand. That just kind of changes the shape of the strand, but I'm still kind of keeping the design integrity of it. I'm keeping the same pattern. Everything is still together. I just added the drop and our beautiful little tassel. But now we have to put together the length of our necklace. And so to do that, I'm going to use 2 pieces of the black faux suede lace, and they are both the same length. Let's see. Let me grab my ruler. I can tell you how long they are. This necklace is probably going to be a little short for some of you, so you may want to make your adjustments as far as length with the suede pieces instead of trying to adjust the length of the centerpiece of your necklace here. So there's 11, 12, 13. So about 14 inches long for my 2 pieces of suede lace. And I'm going to take some 22 gauge wire. Okay, I'm going to need about 4 pieces, and you're going to need probably about, I don't know, 3 inches of those. Let me get some jump rings and a clasp here. So the 2 things that I forgot to grab. So I'm just going to use a lobster clasp, but you can use one of the beautiful clasps that is available over on the website. I always forget to grab a pretty clasp. Just like lobster clasps are on my desk, so I always grab those. So I'm just going to go ahead and attach this one to a jump ring so this one's ready to go. Okay, so we are going to wire wrap our 2 pieces of suede onto our necklace. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on one side. Okay, and I'm just going to take my faux suede lace, thread the end of it through our seed bead loop, okay, and then I'm just going to fold it over, and I'm going to fold it over, giving myself, I'm gonna grab the ruler again. So I want these to be even on each side. So at the fold, the short end, I want it to be about 1 inch. And that was pretty much right on the money. So the short end of the faux suede lace, okay, about 1 inch long. Now just hold those two pieces together, and then you want to come in with one of your pieces of wire, and you're going to lay that across the suede lace, okay? And we're just going to wire wrap this. And it doesn't have to be pretty. In fact, I think it looks cool when it's not pretty. When it's pretty. I think it looks cool when it's kind of just messy. So just gonna take both ends and just wire wrap around. This is gonna secure the suede lace, but then it also adds like this extra little detail of the wire wrap. Just wrap around as many times as you want to, okay? And then you can come in and trim off the ends. And you want to trim, when you trim off your ends, you want to make sure that you're getting as close to the wraps as possible so that you don't have any pieces that are sticking out. I do have a piece that is kind of sticking out, so I'm going to show you. I just come in with my pliers. So this little piece that I just cut is sticking up a little bit. So I'm just going to come in with my chain nose pliers and kind of squeeze it. And then run my finger across it and make sure that it's not sticking up, because I don't want that to get hung on my clothing, particularly this time of year when you're wearing a lot of knits and sweaters. There is nothing worse than pulling a thread loose from your clothing with a piece of wire from your jewelry. I hate it when that happens. All right, so we've attached our end. Let's do the other one, and we'll just go ahead and do the other side instead of finishing the end so that we can make sure that these match in length here. Okay, so I'm just holding them side by side just to kind of eyeball it. I could use the ruler, but that's pretty darn close. And I'm just going to take another piece of wire. Same thing. We're going to do this at the top as well. A lot of times with the suede lace, with other projects that we've done, I normally take, you know, the suede and I'll fold it in half, tie a knot. I forget that we can just bundle it with some wire, and that seems to be pretty easy to do. And you don't have to worry nearly as much about how much of that suede lace it takes to create a knot. Sometimes that whole knotting process can throw off your entire measurement of your necklace, and that can be frustrating. So scoot that one back a little bit. Feel like got a little too close to the seed beads. All right, so just wrapping it around. And I'm using the 22 gauge wire for this just because this is what I had on hand when we were doing our little bead, but you can use whatever gauge wire you want to do this part with. You know, if you prefer to use like a 24 gauge wire for this, you absolutely can go smaller, or you can go thicker with your wire. Okay, so just trim off. And then again, you just want to make sure that you don't have any pieces that are sticking way out. And if you do, just kind of tuck them down with your pliers. All right, so there are the two wraps for the front. Now let's go back here to the back. And we're just going to do the exact same thing, but we are going to attach to a jump ring. So one end is going to go through a jump ring, and then we're again just going to fold it over and do the exact same thing. Wire wrap, right? Just attaching that jump ring. And then on the other one, we'll have our clasp. I started this a little too far back. And then that'll be it. So this is a pretty straightforward, fairly easy project. You know, this is definitely one for those who really enjoy stringing, and you don't have to do a lot of wire wrapping. If you want to skip this whole wire wrapping section right here, you know, add a piece of chain reaction as your length instead of this faux suede lace. Or you can use any of the other cords. Again, the cords are part of the weekly deal, so 10% off all of the cords this week. But you can always use chain, right? Or you can just bead up the length. You don't have to finish the long portion of your necklace the same way. All right, so there's the side with just our jump ring, and we're going to do the same thing with the lobster clasp. And again, I'm just going to hold them side by side so that I can get a good measurement, make sure they're the same length. And a little bit longer piece of wire for this end. All right, I'm going to trim off. And again, just check. It did get quiet. Sorry. It got quiet because I wasn't filling up the space with my words. I'm such a talker. It's always funny when I do get quiet. Everybody's like, oh gosh, what happened? Is she okay? All right, so that's it. That is it. That's our necklace in a nutshell, guys. That was super quick and easy, but we added some extra little flares by adding in the seed beads on the ends for our little seed bead loops, our seed bead center, of course, turning our center bead into a drop and adding a beautiful tassel to this really kind of changed up our strand, but still keeping that beautiful strand in the same, order and pattern that it already existed in. So I'm going to take this and put this on a bust, and then I'm going to turn you guys around. Okay. I do kind of have to knot my suede up a little bit because it's a little long for the necklace bust, but that's all right. You guys can still see it. Okay, so I'm going to turn you around. Yeah, me too, Nicole.
Okay, I'm sure.
Adjusting the sound a little bit, so let me know. Let me know if everything is still, if you guys can still hear me, okay? All right, so here we go. Here's our finished necklace. Not a huge change, but I did see that somebody mentioned just turning that center bead into a drop can change the entire look of just your favorite Jesse James bead strand, right? So it's not a huge change, but it is enough so that you feel like, you still kept the beauty of the strand, but you gave it kind of your own little twist, So I hope you guys have enjoyed this project. Just our everyday design on the fly Wednesday project. I'm just kidding, you guys. You have no idea how stressful the design on the fly projects can be, because I never know if what I envision and what I draw is actually going to translate into real life beads, you know what I mean, if it's actually going to come together. So I try to keep our design on the fly projects kind of easy, but in the same sense, keeping them easy also keeps them accessible to everybody. So you don't have to be a major expert at wire wrapping. You don't have to be a seed beater to get all of those elements into your design. So I hope you've enjoyed this project. I think it turned out really, really beautifully. Just another example that beautiful jewelry does not have to be super hard or complicated. So Hope you guys enjoyed. That is it for me, you guys, but just until tomorrow morning. You can catch me again tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. And between now and then, don't forget to check out the weekly deals if you have forgotten what those are. A free tassel set with a $29 cart. There's buy 3 get 1 free on bundles, and last but not least is 10% off cord. You can always go over to the website and click on weekly deals, and it will take you straight to those sections, so you don't have to worry about whether or not the items that you are shopping actually qualify or not. The Jessie James Beads website takes care of the hard part for you, so no problems there, right? All right, my friends, it has been fun. I will see you guys tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, with another fun project for you guys. Tomorrow we're using check glass beads, and we're going to get out the tying station, which is one of my top 5 favorite tools ever. So be sure to join us for that, guys. All right, have a wonderful rest of the day, and I will see most of you tomorrow morning. Bye, guys.